Hello, everybody. My name is Morissette, and I'm just super thrilled to be representing the Philippines, the side of music as an artist. And I'd like to start off Mabuhay Matters with this song that's proudly OPM, original Filipino music. I hope you all enjoy this one as well. Thank you.
Bakit hindi mo maramdaman? Ikaw sa akin ay mahalaga. Ako sa'yo'y kaibigan lamang. Paano nga ba di ko matanggap? At ako pa ba'y iibigin pa? Ang minanasan aking kibusap na lang. Aking ka na lang, aking ka na lang. Ang dinarasan sa araw-araw. Aking ka na lang, aking ka na lang. At maghihintay hanggang aking ka na. At sa panaginip lamang nahahagad, nayayakap ka. At ako pa ba'y iibigin pa? Ang dinarasan, makikiusap na lang. Aking ka na lang, aking ka na lang. Ang dinarasan sa araw-araw. Aking ka na lang, aking ka na lang. At maghihintay hanggang aking ka na.
Thank you so much. Maraming
Keep it
salamat
up,
po. Mabuhay! Thank
ladies and
you!
That was awesome. Voice of an angel, Morissette. Give it up one more time, please, ladies and gentlemen. What a performance. brings us up to the last panel of today. We're going to keep it all Filipino. Mabuhay Matters. Please welcome onto the stage from Kroma, Jill and Ian. Pineda from Sony, and moderating the panel, Mr. Alexei Barrionuevo. Come on up, please.
Wait, she has to also turn down. Yeah, she's turned down. Yeah, he's muted. You want to just pull it out, make sure? I think it's on now. Is it on? I hear myself. All right. Hey, y'all.
Hello.
Thank you for staying, everybody. Wow, all right, we still got some people out there. That was amazing, right? Morissette, let's give it up one more time. That was like, wow. So we were introduced, but I am Alexei Barrionuevo from Billboard, and I live in Los Angeles, and why don't we just let everyone introduce themselves one more time, just to be sure.
I'm Jill. I head broadcast and publishing business group in Kroma Entertainment from Philippines.
Yes, I'm Ian Monsod. I'm the CEO of Kroma from the Philippines.
I'm Roslyn Pineda. I'm the GM of Sony Music Philippines and Vice President for Business Development Asia.
All right. Well, great. Well, we are here to talk about one of the most exciting markets right now in Asia, and that is the Philippines, which has been having a really interesting year, particularly with, from our perspective at Billboard, with what's been happening with SB19, which, was at we featured them at our Billboard Music Awards this year as they were nominated for Top Social Artist. They ended the year last year as in our Top Social 50 chart, number 6. And more recently, they were number 2 next to Stray Kids' unbelievable fan club, The Stays, in our Billboard Fan Army Face-Off Championship round. So, it's a lot going on in this market, and just to sort it out, we have a really cool panel. So I wanted to start, actually, I think by turning to Roz to explain a little bit about where is the Philippine music market right now.
All right. Well, first of all, thank you, Alexei, and thank you, Billboard, for that incredible support for SB19. It's been crazy. We're so grateful. So the Philippine music market has never been this exciting. I can actually say that from the first half of 2021 to the first half of 2022, it actually experienced an 85.3% growth, which is incredible, the fastest growing market in Asia at this time. I think a lot of it is because we are coming out of a pandemic, and during the pandemic, it was really as if people were forced to go digital because they were all locked up in their homes looking for entertainment. We had one of our biggest TV networks in the Philippines closed down. So really, everyone turned to digital, everyone turned to the short form platforms like TikTok and Reels and Shorts. It's been so exciting. So the belief right now is that there isn't a better time to break a Filipino artist into the world stage, basically because of all these conditions that are primed to make the Philippines, the star. I mean, every market has its time. We do believe very strongly that this is the Philippines' time.
But tell us a little bit more, even Roz, about just how the potential, in terms of the size of the market, potentially, and what it could grow into.
Well, right now it is the 29th biggest music market in the world. That is a far cry from where it was in 2010. We were at 41st, so a lot of growth from there. But in the next 10 years, we're actually looking at being one of the top 20 markets in the world with the way it's going. So again, with the way Filipinos are so into social media, there's a lot of support there from fandoms that can really push their idols, their favorite singers, their favorite OPM singers up the charts, regardless of what chart that may be.
Right. And even before, the last time I was dealing with during pandemic. I actually participated in the virtual conference of All That Matters to talk about another project that was already sort of setting the stage for what we're seeing now, which was this project that Globe Telecom was involved in, and now Kroma is involved in this most recent thing. Can you explain, Ian, a little bit about what happened with that previous project?
Oh, the Paradise Rising?
Paradise Rising, yeah.
Okay, well, just to give a bit of context. So it started off with Globe. Globe and 88 Rising had a joint venture. And the aspiration was, same what I guess Ross was saying, it's to put Filipino talent on the stage, on the world stage. And who better to partner with than 88 Rising, who was really creating a lot of success around building Asian artists on the sort of Western markets. Just fast forward to last year, Globe consolidated all its media and entertainment assets, all its content-making assets, into under one roof and called it Kroma. So now we continue that initiative with Paradise Rising, and we've been very happy with it so far. Basically, right now we've had about 35 tracks released, about 80 million streams, about 50 million YouTube videos, we've made a bunch of bets, some small bets with EPs that are sort of like mixtapes. So lots of Filipino artists that we've made bets on, and signed two artists, Ilona Garcia and Guapdad 4000. So far, that's where we are with Paradise Rising.
Okay, great. And I think that everybody wants to hear a little bit more, though, Roz, about obviously what's been going on with SB19 and Ben, another these two artists that now are with Sony.
So yeah, SB19 is really poised to take over the world. You did mention some of their greatest achievements. There's another one. You have a Billboard Hot Trending Songs chart, for which they actually hold the record for the longest #1. They beat BTS for that record. So it's a great honor, but it's also very, very promising that we have this kind of recognition coming out internationally for our Filipino artists. But I have to say, they've also worked very, very hard for it.
How did you first tell us the story about how you first met or learned about SB19, that they were even a thing?
So at Sony Music, we're always signing, artists that we feel are interesting. And one day, my then A&R, Ma Atienza, sends me a link, right? She normally does that. And then I was watching the link, and I was like, why would she send me a K-pop group, right? We can't really sign K-pop. And then as I was listening to the music, I was like, hold on, that's Tagalog. So I went nuts because they were dancing in the same manner that the K-pop groups do, which is in perfect unison, super sharp movements. And I basically said, let's sign them. We have to sign them. And they were managed at that time by a Korean management company called ShowBT. So we had to negotiate with the Koreans, but that didn't stop us. And we're just so happy and proud about all their achievements. They've also done, it's so funny because it's wonderful to have two artists who admire each other. They've done a couple of collaborations with Ben, who coming into the market, SB19 was really, really, they felt Ben were their idols, right? So it's like seeing your two kids like getting along or loving each other. So Ben is another story as well. It's crazy the numbers that are coming out. So over 1.5 billion Spotify streams. And to think they're not your typical superstar, they're a 9-piece, and they've really just, even over the pandemic, continued to gain fandom. They cohabited in a house because it's really hard over the pandemic to create music, right? But over that period, they did Facebook Lives. They were raising money for COVID. So it's incredible the kind of voice and the kind of power that our artists are able to have within the nation. So this is something that we'd love to see on the world stage, as we always say, right? In the Philippines, and the Filipinos in the audience will attest, we go nuts when we win Miss Universe. We declare a national holiday almost. And when Lea Salonga conquered like the musical theater world, we were so proud. And this time it's different because they can actually support their idols on the way to global superstardom, just by virtue of clicks and likes and supporting and all that. So it's really great. I think the last thing I'm going to say is that the fandom goes beyond the Filipino diaspora. There are Filipinos all over the world. We know that. They're often singing in the hotel lounges or in cruise ships. So they love music. But beyond that, we're just so happy to see the non-Filipino fans just getting so excited about our artists. So again, a most exciting time.
What do you think was the biggest lesson, or has been the biggest lesson about their success to date? What do you think it teaches us about the Filipino market, or maybe how to break an artist beyond a local sort of arena?
Yeah, for these two acts, SB19 and Ben, I can definitely say fans come first for them. So we never even, I was telling you this earlier, Alexei, we don't even have to ask them to post. They just really want to keep their fandoms updated. So for example, for SB19, the name of their fandom is 18, right? Which is a play on the word hours in Filipino, that's what it means. But it's also the number 18, which precedes the number 19, which basically says that, there would be no SB19 without the 18. Right, so it's really that kind of connection to the fans. It's the same with Ben, they actually write songs based on comments on their YouTube channels. When people tell them stories, they write songs off that. So it's just a testament to the huge talent that there is in the market. I mean, Morissette was one example, so we're ready. We're ready to take on the global market, so to speak. Of course, there's a lot of hard work behind all their success. It's finding the right team and really just finding ways to get your artists out there to cut through the noise. That's basically why I think they've been so successful.
Right. So I'm going to get Jill involved here. So what do you think are some of the challenges, though? When you hear all this, it sounds very frothy, but what are the realistic challenges that the Philippine market still has to sort of encounter?
Well, today and yesterday, we've been hearing a lot about how the whole stakeholder system has to really get together so that we can, it takes a village to raise a child. So it's not just the creators themselves, but the whole infrastructure behind them. But the very critical aspect is government support also. And that's the missing ingredient all this time in the Philippine creative scene until recently. Very happy to share it with the audience also that just July 27, the rule has been passed, RA 11904, which is the Creative Industries Development Act, which really aims to protect and strengthen the support and the protection of the whole creative industries altogether. And I'm not just talking about music in general, but the whole slew of creative IPs and core and non-core type of creative institutions. So hopefully, we're poised, right? But the ambition is really a structured way modeled after the famous Hallyu strategy of Korea. So hopefully by 2030, we're poised to be the creative industry top act, I guess, to follow in terms of, let's say, the creative hub for Asia. So really looking forward to that very positive developments happening right now.
Has the government talked at all about what level of funding they're looking at? Is that
Not yet. It's going to be a process because there's going to be a council that will be developed so that they can really do the nuts and bolts on the whole ecosystem and how to really methodically support the whole industry altogether. But the other aspect is actually the enforcement, because it's the whole economy needs to be protected. It's not necessarily just a development of the intellectual property, but how do you really protect it? Because Ross mentioned the fast rising adoption in terms of digital technology right now, internet penetration, very good 5G connection finally. We're number 3 in terms of speed in the whole of Asia because telco is really basically just developing because of the need. But because of that, it's a double-edged sword. Online piracy is also very high, right? So another House bill has just been lodged this, I think, last June, that really hopes to curb online anti-piracy so that we can really do instantaneous in terms of, let's say, site blocking. Because right now, these mushrooms, there's a whole process in terms of, let's say, reporting, if you're the intellectual property owner, and then it goes through hoops through the DTI and then the NTC, all these regulatory bodies. Before you know it, it's been replicated and you can't really curtail the source of piracy. But now, if that happens, if it becomes a law, then it's instantaneous site blocking or suspension or cease and desist. So hopefully that will give the industry teeth to really protect, and hopefully monetization will follow.
And there'll be fines as well? Is that part of the process?
Painful fines, not just slap on the
Painful
wrist.
fines,
Yes.
Right, yeah, that's great. And Ian, I think we've talked about this often, the issue of collections. Is that something also that the Philippines needs to improve on?
Yeah, I think generally, well, I'll take a step back and talk about sort of the general challenges of an artist, because connected with collections, I guess if you want to put it into one bucket, it's the economics. How does an artist make a living in the Philippines? It's not easy, and it's quite a financial risk, and that's kind of a multidimensional statement there. First of all, it's not really a big market in terms of revenue, so it's a big audience. But in terms of royalty pools from subscription or ad service, it's small relative to other countries. So there's not much to go around, and artists are rewarded. I mean, the top ones are rewarded, or the ones who have traction already. And it takes a while in your artist journey to get to that point. So it's your career is subsidized by other things, another job, your family. It's really hard to be an artist, right? And in terms of collection societies, like for publishing, performance, et cetera, we have one of the lowest collection rates in the world. And I know in the recent years there's been a huge effort to step that up, and I'm glad that's happening, because that would really help the artists and IP protection in general, or IP value creation and appropriation in general. Right? Then there's culturally as well. Here are some challenges. You can't say that there's no talent in the Philippines. You just listen to Morissette and oh my God, that's what Philippine talent is all about, right? Yeah. It belongs to the world. It's up there. It's world class. But in terms of culturally, the consumption pattern is also more of, if you saw one of the slides earlier today, we can get to about 80% foreign consumption of songs, right? Because culturally, we like listening to foreign songs, Western songs, and we like copying it. So culturally, I think we have a bit of a challenge in creating our own musical identity as a Filipino artists, right? Because we're great at covers, we're great at emulating genres from abroad, but when it comes to having your own voice and having your own sound, that's not as developed, and it's an uphill climb because generally people like listening to foreign stuff.
Right.
And that is a bigger problem because, for example, in terms of implementation, there was this law I know about forcing like radio stations to have a percentage of airtime dedicated to local music, and pretty much soft implementation. Right? But if that, for example, was really followed, maybe we'd have a populace that would, really appreciate their own a bit more, like a lot of the other Asian countries. So, so economically and culturally, there are these challenges, but I think, to Jill's point, when it comes to the Creative Industries Act, this is a big deal. It's a big deal that the government is going behind the creative industry, and I'm really hopeful about the next 10 years to see how much they're going to put into it. The Creative Council, for example, is composed of key government officials, right? In Department of Trade and Industry, Science, Investments, and also industry representatives. So, and they're going to make a development plan which includes education, which includes subsidies, investments, even loans. It's quite sophisticated and comprehensive. So that gives us a lot of hope.
Yeah, you talk about that we were talking about off stage, the Pineda, the famous Journey cover act, right? I don't want to get that wrong, but that was a couple years ago. It was a big deal in the U.S. as well when he had that his story.
Love Journey.
Yeah, I love Journey. Yeah, and Ross, to just switch it back to you, I mean, how important, or is it important, do you think, to take a page from the Koreans, even deeper, when we talk about even the dance training preparation, right?
Right, so they've really raised the bar, the Koreans. I mean, with how popular K-pop is right now, everybody wants to be, K-pop. I think that definitely P-pop, which is the genre that SB19 originated. When they came onto the scene, they started calling, this group SB19 P-pop, and then the name stuck. There is so much that we take inspiration from the Koreans, and I think number one is that discipline. That discipline to really train for 3 years, as SB19 did. And that is what led to, like what I said, the sharpness of the movements. You can't, that doesn't lie. You could really tell how much they had to go through to get to that level. And so, if anything, it is really something that we aspire to, that hopefully, artists are able to get that kind of support now. Filipino artists, be it with their record labels like Sony Music or their management like Kroma, it's definitely required for us to be able to reach this objective of ours, to have the right support group behind you, the right team behind you. Because it's not easy, as Jill and Ian were saying, it's not easy to be an artist. And we've heard all those stories from Korea that you train for how many years and then you don't get picked, right? So it's so important, I think, to really take care of our artists. At Sony, for example, we even have, because mental health has become such an issue right now, so we actually have a hotline for our artists. We have an artist support for those who just want to talk or just get advice professionally, confidentially. And then we also work towards transparency. So we also have, we were the first ones to put together an artist portal, just to make sure that they know where their earnings, how their earnings, where the earnings are coming from, how much they have, how much they can cash out. These are all things that will allow them to just focus on their craft, which we want them to do. But yes, all the support from everywhere is needed. And of course, yes, they had no income for a whole, a lot of them had, or reduced incomes, let's say, during the pandemic. So right now, it's really a matter of like going out there and getting as much gigs as possible. And yes, as the team behind them, we're prepared to support them. I think that's very, very important.
And you kind of allude to it, but are there limits to that discipline when we talk about, there are obviously the reported stories about how tough those training camps can be on mental health, on personal lives too, right? For the Korean artists, that's one reality in the sector. Is that something that you guys talk about internally, about being, about knowing that there may be limits, or is that what it takes to be successful?
It's definitely something we work closely with their management on. I've spoken to the boys, the SB19 boys. They didn't know how to feed themselves at some point. I'm just so happy they've found success, and it's totally different for them now. It really is a difficult road, and I think we're just making sure that they succeed, right? To make it all worth it, so to speak. Again, it can't be easy. I can't tell you what it was like. They were just saying, long days, and they were actually juggling other work. Some of them were call center agents. Some Stel worked at McDonald's, and so it's just really focus and hard work. And that discipline that we're taking from the Koreans. And also, again, I think I failed to mention this, is we're taking a page from the way they have their fan bases as well. So organized, and they're actually able to do things like the 18, we know BTS ARMY has done a number of things outside of music, right? But it's the same with 18. They raise money for the fishing industry. It's all so wonderful to see. It's community building. I think the kids are really on the right track when they become part of these communities. It's really great to see, and again, a huge source of support for the artists as they embark on this tough and challenging road ahead.
Right. So what is the road ahead now that you sort of segued to that? What's the touring prospect now for these guys? And talk a little bit about that.
I think your timing of asking that question is just perfect because we're actually embarking. Ben and Ben is already in Canada. They're about to start their North American tour. We were supposed to be in South by Southwest March 2020, but we all know how that turned out. So this will be their big US and North America debut. So watch out for that. That's all of October. We're getting international media to interview them. They're also excited. This is their time to shine. They're such brilliant songwriters. They write and sing in English. So it's going to be, watch that space. It's going to be super exciting. And then for SB19, they're touring in November. They have a show here in Singapore. They're doing Dubai. They're doing North America. This is their first time in the States. So again, I think I'd call it like, how people are going on revenge travel. This is revenge touring. For these two, artists that have worked so hard over the pandemic and really grew their fan bases, this is their time. This is their time to gain new audiences. And they've certainly done that in the online and digital space, but now I think, when people watch them live, again, I'll refer back to when you saw Morissette perform. Nothing beats that, right? So they're now going around the world waving our Philippine flag. So again, really hoping for the support of, both Filipinos and non-Filipinos alike. But yeah, thank you for asking that question.
That's
Alexei.
amazing. They haven't been to the U.S. yet, and they come from these sort of very disparate, humble backgrounds. But now they're about to really take on the world. And that took a while. I think back to like some of the big K-pop bands. They didn't immediately tour in the U.S. It shows you how fast things are happening right now, right?
And K-pop has opened the world's eyes to Asian music, right? That is also our other hope that, okay, you're open to K-pop. Again, why not P-pop? It's a similar discipline, a little bit different. The heart, the Filipino heart is so evident in the way they sing their songs. But yeah, definitely kudos to the Koreans for having made that happen and inspiring the rest of Asia.
Right. Well, thank you so much, all of you. This is amazing, wonderful. Let's give it up to the panel.